Ugh. So I've been absorbing some of the information that More Perfect Union is providing in the context of what's going on in those data centers in Hillsboro, and I've got some thoughts that I remain sort of having about the information that was provided by them and the Hillsboro Herald and everything. And you might think that what I'm about to say is a bit deranged, but I am, at the end of the day, I think and feel the way that I do about this one. I'm sorry to you, Sir Dan Lehman, that you came here for a calm, tranquil place, but I prefer city life to the calmness out in the country. That's just how I feel, and I felt for a long time, because in the city we get a lot of things and that we won't get out here. I mean, in the countryside it might be quiet out here, for example, but I have to travel all the way into Portland in order to get anything that is cool, and to do anything that's actually cool with anybody. If 2600's crew came here, I'd have to go. The 2600 meetings are all the way on the east end of Portland, for instance, at a little pizzeria, that exists out there, and it's great fun to hang out with them and everything. But I have to make quite the journey out there to hang out with them. There's the Coffin Club in Portland. There's a club for goth people like myself who have that sort of tendency and way, and I would love to go out to them, but I need to be able to get out there, which means I have to borrow a car or take public transit, which takes hours and hours and hours to actually do. It's 2 hours by public transit, into Portland from where I am. Now you might be able to shave that down by taking pure city buses, but given the lower foot traffic and the greater foot space and everything, the ability to spread out, I tend to take the max trains. Whenever I do resort to public transit into things, and they are, they're, it's cheap, especially as an honored citizen, sort of thing. But it's, you know, like I said, it's a bit of a pain because it takes so long to get into downtown from further actually out than Hillsboro. And I don't like to specify. I don't like to indicate my exact hometown for reasons that of cybersecurity, basically. But I don't like it out here. I don't like how far I am removed from everything that's going on. I don't want to be in a rural community. I have the completely opposite sentiment to you. So seeing Hillsboro urbanize is just like seeing, more stuff that might be cool and that I might get access to more cool shit as a result of it. And what the reports were talking about were how data centers don't give much back to the area and everything, and that because they don't pay their taxes for the next 5 years, we would have been able to pay 3,660 teachers if this didn't happen. But when I saw that, I thought, I couldn't help but think, why would I want to hire 3,660 teachers if I know those teachers are going to be propping up an educational model that I no longer believe in or have any confidence in? The Prussian system, for better or worse, has, at this point in the American system, an abysmal track record of actually producing results and getting test scores up in our public schools. They've done a stunningly terrible job of actually educating the youth and everything, and it's appalling. Many American families would testify to this reality to me. So why do I want to hire 3,660 teachers if those teachers are all going to go on to teach in the conventional Prussian system? Another thing that I would like to point out to you, kind viewer, is quite simply, and I prefer to get a little bit, just see what else I'm doing with this and just not give you this whole shit. It's not great, that this is going on, that you're seeing this kind of background in my videos. But anyways, where I was going with that is that you might think, I saw some comments on Reddit to the effect of it would have made a lot more money, it would have created a lot more jobs to work in manufacturing, but it aren't that's not even that's somebody's opinion, but unfortunately that opinion is also a misinformed opinion, and it's based on a misunderstanding of that person, and the data that feeds into that person's perspective is errant. The truth of the matter is that manufacturing in 2026 is not your grandfather's manufacturing. It's highly automated. It relies almost entirely on machines, and in today's era of manufacturing, there are some limited jobs available in factories, but you need a lot of skills to do that work, which means that we have set up a whole system that was conceived of a long time ago, and the educational model that we had was imagined a long time ago, and everything for a society that looked fundamentally different than the one that we did, when we needed vast numbers of factory workers that were obedient factory workers to enter and act as cogs in the machine. And so that educational model existed for them. Unfortunately, for us, students in today's era in the public school system are being prepared for a society that no longer exists, and for jobs that will not be there for them, when they get out of the system and they graduate and they get their degree. It just will not be there. They will not ultimately have those jobs available to them when they get out of that system, and that is just the fundamental reality that you're going to be stuck with it. So maybe 0.2% of them will end up working in these factories. The other 99.8% of them are never going to even see the inside of a factory, much less actually work inside of one. The vast majority of your kids are never going to work in a factory, and so the Prussian system is set up to prepare them for a future that doesn't exist and will never be, and will not be there for them when they get out. If there are jobs available in manufacturing at that point in stage on the factories, it'll be the jobs that require a bunch of skills. The self-same jobs that require a bunch of skills that, they may be able to get with years and years of additional education out after they get out of high school. But you know what I'm saying about all this. This is going to be a nightmare and everything. And if we had built factories instead of data centers, we would have created just as many jobs. And when I point out about the teachers, those 3,660 teachers would be set up to prop up an unjust institution that is terrible and is incredibly ineffective at actually getting test scores up. Appallingly so. And as a consequence of all of this, all these orders of problems, I don't feel the loss here. I know that I would feel it very acutely if these were teachers that were, trained in the Montessorian model, but these would be people that would be coming in to shore up a system that is the educational equivalent of the Titanic after it hit the iceberg. You've got a massive sinking ship that is the Prussian system, and it is a very fatally flawed model for education and everything. It is broken, and you wouldn't be seeing so much educational activism if it was actually good at doing its jobs, and all these movements against the public schools and all this other stuff that's been going on in this country for a very long time. We wouldn't be looking at these charter schools, where not every charter school is created equal, admittedly, but they're all over the place, and there's so many of them, and so many people will either swear by them or hate them, and the polarizing effects of all of it. But if we still believed as a country in the education system, we wouldn't be looking at this. But no, I don't actually feel the loss, because I know those people will be going up to prop up a system I no longer believe in. Now, see, because I have started to tell my truth about all this and the way that I feel about all of it. It's, I want more taxpayer money going to fund Montessori public schools, that are based on the Montessori model rather than the Prussian model. I don't, and so I'm very, good that we're not hiring, people to prop up the Prussian system. I don't care. Nothing of value has been lost here.